Let's start playing chord progressions using the two simplest possible chords in any key. And those are, of course, the 1 and 5 chords, tonic and dominant. So what we're going to do is practice playing these chords, this chord progression, in any given key using a bass note in the left hand. So let's begin thinking in the key of C. So I'll be playing a C bass note in my left hand, and then my right hand will start on any of the inversions of the C major triad that you want. Here I'll start just with root position. Then I'm going to go to the 5 chord in the key of C major. So if you're thinking from C, count up 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll be going from a C major chord to a G major chord. But what I want to do is play the bass note in the left hand, the root note of the chord, and in the right hand, move as smoothly as possible from the notes of the C major chord to the notes of the G major chord, just like we did for the circle of fifths activity. So what you're going to do is keep the G common tone there in the pinky, and move the other 2 notes down by step to the notes of the 5 chord that are closest to them. So that's the 5 chord, 1 chord, 5, 1. And that's basically all we're going to do to start off with. So what I want you to do is think in a slow meter. It could be 4/4, any simple meter like that, and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And repeat it. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, of course, you could change the inversion of your right hand. And you could even start to do some kind of more fancy or interesting accompanimental patterns. Practice it in any way that you want. You can make it interesting. You don't have to just play static, boring chords. And it's probably a good idea to start practicing, making it a little more lively. So practicing, starting in the key of C major or any key that you want to start with, but do practice this around the circle of fifths. So again, use your circle of fifths handout for that. So if I'm going to go to F, F is going to be my 1 chord now. C is now my 5 chord. Going further to B flat. B flat's my 1. F is my 5. Now you're probably noticing that basically these chord motions are exactly the same as the ones we were practicing when going around the circle of fifths. That's because the 1 and the 5 chord are a fifth away from each other. So we've already really been practicing these chord motions, but now we're just focusing on going back and forth between 1 and 5. Now in addition to doing major keys, I would like you to do minor keys as well. So remember, changing a major key to a minor is simple. You flat the 3rd of the 1 chord, right? But the thing to remember when you're going from the minor 1 to the 5 chord in a minor key is that the 5 chord is not minor. So you don't change the 5 chord to minor, you keep the 5 chord major. So the only difference between doing these 1 to 5 progressions in minor versus major keys is that the 1 chord is minor, but the 5 chord is still major. And so on in other keys. You can go around the circle of fifths the other way, so go to G minor next. Etc., etc. Now in addition to just simply playing the chords by themselves, I'd like you to practice improvising over the chords. And I want to show you how to do that. So you can basically do your own accompaniment here. I'm going to go back to C major to keep it simple. I'm going to play a C major chord in my left hand, all right? So that leaves my right hand free to improvise melodically on top of it, all right? So when I'm playing the 1 chord, and the simplest way to do this is just to simply plunk down the 1 chord and then not really think too much about tempo or meter at all, just kind of play freely in the right hand on top of that 1 chord. But the way I want you to improvise melodically in the right hand is to emphasize the notes of the 1 chord in whatever key you're in over the notes that are away from the 1 chord's pitches. So think of the do, mi, and so as your main ones you're emphasizing, and the other ones as passing tones between them. So an improvisation might sound like, all right, simple 1 chord improvisation. Then move to the 5 chord. All right? improvisation again, emphasizing the notes of that 5 chord. All right? So when you're going back and forth, try to more seamlessly connect the chords melodically in your right hand as you're improvising on top of them. Eventually, see if you can keep a slow tempo in your left hand and right hand so that you're working your way through the chords in a logical way and in a musical way. So those are the 1 and 5 progressions.